Welcome to part 2 of our racing games to watch for 2022 series. In this video, we'll be going over the top 5 racing games to watch over the coming year. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, make sure to click the card above, or take the link down below to get the proper context. This series is not about ranking my personal favourite racing games, but rather aggregating them based on a number of criteria such as their overall quality, their rate of change, their present trajectory, their overall sense of newness, their accessibility, their impact, and their likelihood to release new content in 2022. As a result, you'll find some titles in here which are not traditionally considered thoroughbred racing simulators, because we're also factoring in wider appeal. There's absolutely no doubt that this list is going to anger just about everyone because their favourite sim didn't make it high enough, so let's just get this over with. Number 5 on our list is Forza Motorsport 8. Forza is one of the largest racing game properties in the world, and certainly the flag bearer of accessible racing games on PC and Xbox. Forza Horizon 5 came out in late 2021 to wide acclaim. Motorsport 8 is going to be the more thoroughbred, motorsport-focused entry, aiming to go toe-to-toe with titles such as Gran Turismo 7. From the few tidbits of information that have been teased, we can infer that the new title will most definitely feature Laguna Seca, while the developer interviews have focused a great deal on the under-the-hood physics updates coming to Motorsport 8, including refreshed tyre and suspension models, air pressure simulation to make engines behave differently at altitude, and generally a host of changes they've come to in collaboration with what they call their drift partners. There is also talk of ray tracing support, but we'll have to see how well that can be integrated while still maintaining the high refresh rate performance that racing gamers expect. I would wager it will be implemented on external replays, much like GT7, with the driving experience using traditional shading models. If we're lucky, perhaps we'll get the option to toggle this while driving, for those who've managed to snag RTX 3090s and can afford the performance hit to get some sweet accurate reflections and light bounces. There's a lot of talk about physics, and the title feeling dramatically different to the last entry, according to Turn 7, which always gets my inner sim racer running on that hamster wheel a little bit quicker. While there's no official release date as yet, it's being strongly rumoured as a late 2022 release, so we'll have to wait and see. Codemasters' much lauded Formula 1 series has been running for over a decade. Being entrusted with the most popular motorsport on Earth is no small task, and Codemasters have done remarkably in order to secure the license for such a long period of time. While this series has never quite been known for its driving realism, it is most certainly known for its absolute immersion career modes. If you really want to feel like a rookie working his way up through the feeder leagues into Formula 1 and then working his way through the season with the team, picking up as many points as possible while frantically upgrading the car and various facets of the team and management structure along the way, then this is the game for you. If you want to be captured in the sensation of truly battling for the world title, racing across the most prestigious tracks in the world, while learning how to manage a slew of elements such as tyre wear, pit strategies, ERS, DRS, and several more acronyms, this is a video entry you've been waiting for. Now, of course, a title focusing so much on capturing the attention of the casual gamer is going to be lacking in a few areas. Notably, the Codemasters F1 titles have done precious little to truly bring their driving model up to modern standards. The recent 2021 release is often criticised as an actual regression, and you don't have to go far to see esports professionals using very, unique lines to achieve their world-beating times. Given the Codemasters have now been absorbed by the giant EA, it's doubtful that the series will ever see a tremendous shift toward realism in its driving model, but it's perhaps fair to say that it may see a boost to the overall level of audiovisual pizzazz the title packs. Keep your eyes on F1 2022 to see Codemasters rendering the new era of Formula 1 cars, featuring some of the largest design overhauls in F1 history, in the hopes that it will lead to closer, less turbulent racing. The sheer popularity of Formula 1, crossed with Codemasters making this a yearly trademark release for over a decade, lands it at number 4 on our list. The first of our podium finishers. The mighty ACC had a rough launch back in 2018, as covered by a recent dissertation running over its brief history. The developer, Kunos, used the new title to jump from their in-house game engine, used on the original Assetto Corsa, over to Unreal Engine 4. While that brought a nice bump in graphical fidelity, it wasn't without its drawbacks, with ACC engaging in a continual struggle against performance issues, especially in VR. Recent updates, adding technologies such as Nvidia's DLSS and AMD's FSR, have mitigated these performance issues and made ACC much more playable even on lower-end hardware. In the modern day, Assetto Corsa Competizione is widely seen as the de facto leading simulator for GT3 and GT4 simulation. Over the course of its 4-year run, Kunos have continually refined its physics engine, while also padding out the content roster with semi-regular DLC releases. It's now at a point where many real-life GT3 drivers use it for practice in between real-life sessions in order to stay fresh. ACC is generally seen as one of the tightest packages in sim racing, with a strong audiovisual presentation and a consistent quality across its entire roster of content. Notably, alongside Race Room, it contains some of the best sound design in sim racing. Going into 2022, ACC has one final DLC left to release before Kunos jump onto developing Assetto Corsa 2 full-time. The new USA-themed pack is set to contain Circuit of the Americas, the new Lamborghini Super Trofeo, the Ferrari Challenge, new Porsche Cup Car, BMW M2 CS, among other content, yet to be announced. Whatever the case, ACC has left its mark on the industry, and its swan-song release is sure to delight many sim racing aficionados. For this, it scores number 3 on our list of top sims to watch in 2022. Extolling either a love or hate reaction, iRacing tends to be one of the most polarizing racing simulators in existence. With active player counts going toe-to-toe and occasionally exceeding the original Assetto Corsa, iRacing could be said to be the most popular thoroughbred racing simulator out there. Being released in 2008, this sim has been around while most newer sim racers were still learning how to walk. Built on a very dated engine, much like Race Room, iRacing was instead pushed with a far more aggressive monetization strategy, which has allowed the developers to continually modernize the title, adding features such as DirectX 11 support, PBR textures, and a smorgasbord of other improvements over the years. This is a double-edged sword, however, as this exact same monetization strategy has alienated some of the sim racing fanbase, with people citing concerns regarding double dipping. iRacing charges a monthly subscription fee, as well as individual DLC purchases on top. The individual tracks and cars are among some of the most costly in all of sim racing, even when bundled up. That's one thing. However, if a player allows their subscription to lapse, they lose access to all of the content they've purchased. In iRacing's ecosystem, this could potentially amount to thousands of dollars across a player's lifetime. So, what does this hefty entry fee purchase for sim racers? Well, one of the most well-curated online public server ecosystems around, with some of the most robust license and safety ratings. iRacing thrives because of its online competitive environment. But let's say you're like me and you spend 90% of your time in offline practice sessions tuning your car and trying to improve your laps. What do you get then? Well, surprisingly, one of the most robust driving models in modern sim racing. One thing which genuinely caught me off guard was how natural and realistic the driving in iRacing felt. If I had to characterize it, I would say it's like R-Factor 2 but with less weirdness and worse force feedback. Some of the newer models such as the MX-5, Porsche Cup Car and Mercedes F1 are tremendous, leading the way as some of the most well-rendered vehicles in sim racing. Having a robust physical tire model, iRacing decidedly feels like driving on rubber, much as R-Factor 2 and Automobilista 2 do, though with more refinement perhaps than both. Ergo, iRacing feels extremely natural and realistic to drive in, which combined with its robust online ecosystem offsets some of the significant drawback of its aggressive monetization. With the long-awaited arrival of iRacing's wet weather physics likely set to rear their heads sometime this year, combined with the leaps it has made in its handling model over the last year while packing the indisputably best online ecosystem for public racing, places iRacing at number 2 of our sims to watch in 2022. Don't lie, you saw this coming. Whatever you may think about its level of realism, Gran Turismo is the grandfather of modern racing games. Almost all of us have some childhood memory of buying a poor, used Mitsubishi GTO and then turning it into a 2,000 brake horsepower, twin-turbocharged beast that got to 400 kmph faster than the head gaskets exploded, and we experienced infinite understeer for the first time in our lives heading into T1. While we can't be absolutely sure what Gran Turismo 7 will bring next month, it's hard to dispute that this is currently the most anticipated racing game on the market, with the richest pedigree and history, and this alone naturally lands it as number 1 on our list. Sans Mario Kart and the Need for Speed series, Gran Turismo is the highest selling racing game series in history, to which some might say it's the highest selling realistic racing game series in history. Gran Turismo is less of a racing game and more of a car lover's experience. Every facet of the series is designed to share with you the pure love for motorsport and the appreciation for every single vehicle you manage to attain through your career journey. The license tests, used car dealership, and smorgasbord of career progression events from simple Sunday Cups through to the 24 Hours of Le Mans all project the sheer love of driving and automotive culture. From 90s JDM through to European luxury to prototype cars, Gran Turismo spans the vast expanse of car classes and provides something truly for everybody. Supporting this is one of the most pleasant and well-curated soundtracks in gaming history. Gran Turismo's jazz fusion electro rock hits still resonate with players to this day, something I know well given how often I like to borrow from this lovely well of music. Gran Turismo 7 is the 25th anniversary release of the original title, all the way back in 1997, and it plans to commemorate this with a tremendous homage to the history of automobiles. It contains museums for each manufacturer, specially curated stories for certain models of cars, occasionally narrated by the creators themselves, and a whole host of new features and physics additions. One of the most exciting new elements of GT7 is the wet weather simulation, with dynamically drying track lines and air pressure simulation taking into account the altitude as it relates to car performance and also factoring into the slipstream effect. There are also rumours that it may involve limited engine swaps for the first time ever, not to mention the return of the beloved used car dealership and ability to tweak a car to its absolute limits. While its motto is the real driving simulator, most sim racers these days don't necessarily consider Gran Turismo to be a thoroughbred sim, but rather something in between. Accessible enough for casuals to have fun, while deep enough on the physics front to continue posing a challenge to veteran racers. Whatever your personal thoughts on the Gran Turismo series, it's hard to deny that it's done a tremendous amount over the last 25 years to champion car culture and bring it into the mainstream, perhaps more so than any other racing franchise in history. For this reason, Gran Turismo 7 lands at number 1 on our list of must-watch racing games for 2022. While not strictly a racing simulator per se, I would be beside myself if I didn't include the most ambitious car game in existence. BeamNG has pushed soft body modeling to levels many of us thought we wouldn't see realized in our lifetimes. Originally beginning as a humble crash simulator in 2015, BeamNG has developed over time to turn into a full-fledged car lover's paradise. Do your kids like setting up crazy domino-like intricate crash scenarios involving ramps, multiple types of vehicles, superchargers, NOS, and even cannonballs? BeamNG has you covered. Do you like recreating 70s style police chases a la movies like Blues Brothers? BeamNG has you covered. Do you like taking a basic chassis and heavily modifying it until the car becomes an absolute street weapon which you then tear around an open world city in? BeamNG has you covered. Do you like scenic, relaxing drives in a stock touring road car around the Utah canyons? BeamNG has you covered. Do you like getting together with Car Mighty and sending a dozen cars all down the Nordschleife in a ridiculous free-for-all frenzy of annihilation to once and for all decide who's the most ultimate sim racer ever? BeamNG had... well, you get the point. BeamNG is our shining jewel, our hope for the future of all car simulation. Not only have they created an astoundingly realistic damage model far beyond anything we've ever seen in racing games prior, but they're now bringing the driving model up to par as BeamNG inches ever closer to driving like the best in the industry. BeamNG's main drawback? Well, it's more of a sandbox than a game. There's plenty to do, so long as you have the imagination to create the boundaries for yourself. For For those expecting a game, it won't offer much other than a fun diversion every so often. BeamNG's insane ambition, rapid rate of improvement, content release schedule, pure fun-loving spirit, respect for car culture, and extreme value for money lands it as our honourable mention. Well, there we have it, our 10 racing games to watch for 2022. I hope you've picked up on some new titles to put a pin into and keep an eye out for. If not, at the very least, hopefully you've had some of your existing predispositions confirmed and finally decided to pull the trigger on that game you've been eyeing over for months. Whatever the case, consider hitting that subscribe button to stay informed of all of this channel's coming sim racing content, with a special focus on BeamNG and Gran Turismo 7 over the coming months. I hope you'll all join me as we dive in and celebrate car culture to its limit. Until then, I'll see you all later.